This is ContactTalkRadio.com. Consciousness in action. And you are taking action into your consciousness by tuning into Contact Talk Radio.
And on TuneIn.com, Ping.fm, and Upsnap Mobile.
Contact Talk Radio.
Hello, this is Robert Tum. I hope everybody's doing well this morning for our program. And how are you doing, Miss Liz Starkey?
I'm fine, thanks, Robert. Yes, happy to be here. We are coming live from a different location than typical. So we've got lots of windows, lots of bird action happening. So different vibe.
Yeah, we're in a real tropical place in Florida, and lots of still really hot here. It's probably in the 90s today, but we're in a really lush area where it's almost like being in our own little rainforest, so to speak, with all the growth around us and everything. So it's a great place to do the program.
Yes, indeed.
Liz, do you know this is our 24th program? We've been doing the program for about a year and a half or so now.
Really? Wow.
Maybe it's been longer than I lost track, but the 24th, and sometimes we only do one a month, but we try to do with the new schedule this Tuesday, second and fourth Tuesday of every month at 11 Eastern time. So thank you all for joining us this morning, and I hope everybody's doing well.
That feels like years and years ago when we started this.
Yeah, it does.
Was that in 2020?
You know, I know that we were
2019, I think.
Yeah, we were on the road just before that to a class we were holding and having conversations with Cameron about getting this started.
Interesting.
So, anyway, the program today is one Liz, what I'd like to do, I don't want to assume that everybody listening in knows who we are and understands kind of what we do. So I thought we'd maybe spend a few minutes telling a little bit about what we do and our perspectives. Okay. And does that sound like a good idea to you?
You taking the lead on this, Captain?
Oh, absolutely. And when somebody calls me for the first time and they ask what I do, I make it clear that I'm not a psychic. I have intuitive skills that I've developed, and these skills we teach people. These skills come from a source of, in the early days, 35 years ago or so, when I first started digging in and researching this, was my question on how do we validate, how do we prove? I've been around lots of psychics and intuitives, and this research, my ongoing research on metaphysics. And excuse me 1 second while I turn this phone off. On metaphysics, and I knew there had to be a way of being able to validate and discern and measure and quantify and qualify things to validate and prove things. And that's the system that has evolved into what we call spiritual energy dynamics today, a very well-proven, tried and tested and true system that a lot of clients from all walks of life use us for working on energies and their families, and that because of the success and the all of the results they've seen and witnessed from it, not just with themselves, but for their children and families and others that have experienced this. But the bottom line is, how do we measure that sort of thing? An energy field of a human or an animal or anything out there. So that's the bottom line of what we do, and we'll talk about that a little bit more.
Yeah, it's really interesting. You mentioned that initial phone call with an individual, and it's funny, we can do a lot. We can fit into almost anyone's life. It's a matter of expressing what it is we do to be able to be on the receiving end of that and comprehend what's happening. And it's always very interesting to connect with the new person, because what comes through, the information that comes through from the higher realms through you or I, is always different. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty interesting. You mentioned all walks of life, and it's true. And I think the biggest thing, and you say it all the time, the proof's in the pudding. Mm-hmm. You can try to comprehend, you can read all the books, but unless you experience the work, you don't know. And a lot of our students, they'll talk about their first time in class or their second time in class and what happens for them on a human level, but on the many layers of their human energy field, because it's big, it's different.
Well, it's different because even with all the many books and the wisdom that's out there, they're still scratching the surface of possibilities of vibration. What people consider high vibrations, really in the scheme of things, for humanity may be pretty high, but in the scheme of possibilities, it's just getting started. And so there's not a lot written about it because a lot of people, there's not much experience. And the cool thing is that the experience is personalized. It doesn't matter whether you're Baptist, Buddhist, what the religion is, what the belief system is, the energies will speak for themselves as far as whether they're connected to the light or not. And to what degree are they connected to the light, and how accurate are the sources? That's all stuff that can be measured. And those are all questions that I asked over the years as I was getting involved. And knowing you very well, Liz, you ask those same kind of questions. How do you validate? Because there's a whole bunch of stuff out there that people need to be kind of aware of, and don't take everything just because somebody says, hey, this is the truth, these are the facts. And that includes us.
Yeah.
We want to be held accountable for what we say in our own methodology. We want to be held accountable for accuracy and legitimacy of what we talk about and share information about.
Well, it's interesting. We are in the information age, and I think about the last 100 years of humanity, but even the last 40, what has changed in our society is so big that we can't even process how different it is to be a human on planet Earth today. And it's information overload, 100%. We can get information on any topic from 100 different sources in a matter of seconds. And there is a large lack of discernment because we haven't gotten to the place where we realize that we need to discern, because we are so, I don't know, tuned in, plugged in, hungry for instant information versus stepping back and thinking, is this real? Is this true? Is this good for me to put into my body? And it can be, at the very least, overwhelming. I think as a whole, humanity is overstimulated to the max right now, and that's something we could talk about for hours.
Yeah,
probably.
for sure. And one of the things too, as we are talking about this now, the tons of information that's out there, and people talking about ascension and consciousness expansion. I've seen articles talking about what are the symptoms of ascension. You eat less, you eat lighter, you sleep less, you feel different, blah 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 blah. Some of it is kind of true, but the truth is, sometimes there's not symptoms at all, some are not indications or feelings, because it's a subtle expansion of consciousness that the awareness increases and your way of looking at things increases. But a lot of things can cause that. It's not always expansion in consciousness. It can actually be the opposite, where somebody's tuned into the astral realm, which is something people shouldn't be exploring, in my opinion. But there's a lot of misinformation out there, and it's good to get excited and want to grow in the consciousness and ascension, but it's very measurable. There's a fine, we can easily determine where a person is on that growth into ascension, or maybe they've already achieved a level of ascension, which, by the way, it doesn't change your life per se. Life goes on while you're in the physical, and you're still subject to physical experiences and conditions and that. But my point here being is it is measurable, and very few people really have a roadmap or a configuration that can tell them where they are. And one of the challenges that I run into is people that have been in metaphysics for a long time, and they think they're already enlightened or connected to the light or as high as they can get. You start talking about possibilities of things interfering or entities in their field or blockages or things that are discordant. They're quickly in denial, going, I've been studying energies for many years, and I'm already at that place where there's, I don't need any energy work. And the truth is, sometimes all of us, that as we expand into higher consciousness, may require more energy work as we are refining and aligning our energies to be able to deal with the higher energy configurations.
Right. Well said. And man, the human energy field is so delicate. I mean, there's so many components that interact with other components, and the thought of not achieving this nirvana state of experience, but not catching, at least at the very least, external interference, to me is baffling. And it's not to say that there aren't people out there who hold better energies overall and have a more steady and stable energy field. But what we look at, man, I mean, it's a crazy world we're living in. And maybe if you're living in a mountain cave somewhere in Tibet and you're not plugged into what's going on in the world, probably. But if you're, a functioning member of, at the very least, American society, you're getting a lot thrown at you right now.
Absolutely. And discerning and sorting through it and being able to manage your own energies, regardless of your modality or what you think about it, consciousness is a very difficult thing to do. We teach our tools in classes that right now we're only holding once a year, but you can contact us at any time to get more information on that.
Yes.
However, as we look at the configuration of a human energy field, it's not just external things that can come in and interfere. As it comes in, sometimes it's brought in through our own fears and confusion and thoughts and substance abuse and belief systems, and that opens us up like a magnet to stuff that can come in and misalign our energies and minimize our connection to source.
Yeah, bingo. And you and I know we're not doing this to cause fear or to make someone feel bad. We're just stating the facts.
Right. We're not criticizing anybody. And we admire where each of you are in your path and what you've experienced. I mean, if you look at our library, we've got hundreds of books that we've studied over the years and looked at and take the best out of other systems and incorporate them into some of the work we do. But we do know that there's a lot more out there than what's written. And the cool thing, as we get into expanded energies, everybody is developing their own unique
Bingo.
configuration to higher vibrational sources. So the old models, even though they still work, it's like new software, new computers. You got to upgrade what you do in as you expand your consciousness, and it becomes more and more personalized. You're developing a personal connection more and more with source and with the angels and the masters and the divine beings that are out there. The more you expand, the more you look inside, the more you think about that personal connection, it becomes very, very strong connection if you allow it to happen. But it takes some refinement. It's not necessarily effortless.
Yes. And wow, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever your skill sets or belief systems, we need you. We need you to hold the higher frequencies. We need you to be kind to other human beings. We need you to light the way in whatever way that is. Maybe you're an amazing painter, or you're good at writing, or maybe you're super duper shy, but you speak with the animals, whatever it might be. We need you to step into your own, because we're at a pivotal point in our planet's history and we need to come back together as humanity. So whatever it is that you're doing, like, pat yourself on the back.
Exactly.
Look at you, girl and dude. I mean, it's incredible where you are at. So don't be afraid to, that little light, you're going to let it shine, but you're going to turn it up a little bit brighter, because the world's ready for it. The earth's ready for it. And that's why things look as tumultuous as they do, because gosh, it's like the top of the wave right before it breaks.
Exactly, Liz. And as we were talking about what we do and structures on that, one of the things I want to make a point about is that I deal every week with individuals that, their goal is to be a healer. They want to learn the techniques, whether it's Reiki or some type of technique that helps them become a healer and that. And guess what, folks? There's many healers out there, some good, some that probably shouldn't be doing healing work. But the challenge is to convince yourself you can doing healing. If you keep your connection to the light and your vibrations high, which we measure and we can ascertain where each one of you is and help you get to a higher level. But as you have that light coming into you, you are a beacon of light no matter where you are. One of my young friends, clients, just recently moved to New York City. And I was explaining to her that it doesn't matter what she's doing as far as making a living. She is that anchoring point for higher vibrations. She is a beacon of light. She has a very great energy connection and an attitude, and she cares about humanity, and she wants to be of service. She can be of service doing volunteer work, working at a deli, working in a corporation. The energies come through each one of us if we have a good enough connection to come out, and it allows the angels and masters to be able to come through that channel, through that link, and and spread out to humanity all around. And it's not just humanity, animate, nature, vegetable, animal kingdom. It's how they work is through those of us that are connected to the light to come in and be of service themselves. So you don't necessarily have to be somebody that is a practitioner per se, providing services to others. We all can be of service.
Yes.
I mean, to me, some of the most blessed people out there is when I go out to eat and there's a person there that's been working a double shift at a diner, can still say, "Good morning, how are you?" and be cheerful. And, they're the ones that are oftentimes spreading the light as much as any of the rest of us that are practicing it.
Right. And I mean, I've been kind of on one the last couple of days, so keep that in mind, friends. But man, if we want to save this planet, it is up to us. We have to stop waiting around for someone to do it and come together, because I know this is hidden for a lot of people out there. There's like a spark that's growing inside them. They're hearing this call and they understand what it's about. We need to stop being afraid of being canceled by society or, hurting someone's feelings. We need to speak our truth in love and help each other out of this darkness that's gotten a lot darker in the last 2 years. The time is now, guys. And so I'm cheering you on and I want to meet all of you. And, what I've been experiencing in my personal life is people who are feeling the same way about the status of our planet are finding each other, whether it's via internet forums or whatever might be the case.
A walk in the park, right?
Walking in the park, going to the farmer's market. There are connections being established, and we need to keep establishing those connections and having open, frank conversations. We're so scared. Everyone's the enemy right now. Every person you encounter is the enemy because of what's happening in the world and how we've been programmed to be so scared of one another. And that has to stop. We have to set our political differences aside, our opinions on what's supposed to happen aside, and start talking to each other again, because we are no longer engaged in the human experience. We are getting our packages delivered from Whole Foods and Amazon at our doorstep. We're living in our house behind our screen, and we've forgotten what it feels like to be 3 feet away from another person, having honest, open dialogue, standing around the yard, drinking beer with the boys, whatever it might be. We aren't doing that. And that is what we need to do in order to save the planet. That sounds so dramatic, but I mean this from the bottom of my heart.
Absolutely, Liz. And, speaking of that, how does one get a hold of you if they want to talk to you more about this or talk about your services?
So the best thing y'all could do is get behind your screen and find lizwithwings.com. My information's there. You can shoot me an email at lizwithwings@gmail.com. And I mean, I'm pretty, within 24 hours, usually less than, I'm there. We can chat.
Yeah, Liz, I think that
I think we've got a caller.
Oh, we
Mr.
have a
Tom.
caller. Okay. Let's Cameron, let's go ahead and bring our caller in, please.
You're live with her.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Is this Gertie? Are you there, Gertie? Cameron?
No, I can't hear them. No.
Little technical glitch here that being worked on.
Well, while we get that figured out, how can people get a hold of you, Mr. Tom?
Well, just as you get the overflow, just send them my way. Yeah, it's just the sed4u.com, and there's a new website, sed4u.biz, is available for people to look at too. So
Cool.
and
Yeah, I can
so
hear them.
just
Yeah.
Oh, hello.
hello, Gertie.
Hi, Liz.
Hi.
Robert. Hi.
How are you this
How are
morning or
you?
afternoon?
Yes, this is afternoon here in Europe. I'm doing very well, and I'm so honored to be a guest here with you guys. I listen to you on the podcast all the time, and I'm really, really, really excited about being here and talking to you.
All
Yeah,
right.
Gertie. Yeah, we're excited to be talking to you. We love the relationship we've established with you over the last few months or year, and we've really got a unique bond and connection going with you, and so excited to have that connection because of your wisdom and insights and things that you share with us as we have our chats with each other.
Yes. Well, I am inspired by you, and I'm honored to be also a source of inspiration for you. And I've been listening to your conversation, and it's so right on what I was going to ask you about. If I may, can I ask
Sure.
a
Please.
question?
Yes.
Okay, so my question is, I am been working as a spiritual counselor and healer for many, many years, and I have come to really look at the concept of healing almost as a double-edged sword, because sometimes I see that when people are trying to heal other people that, you know, are in need of healing, and most of the people that come to me and you guys probably are not people that are completely happy and excited and in harmony in their lives. What I find is that when people sometimes ask for healing, or people that are healing, they sometimes add energy to whatever it is that needs to be healed, and perpetuate it rather than change it. And there's always also a judgment that whatever is there is not meant to be there. And yet on another level, none of that is true. So I find in my work, sometimes I'm more of a reader than a healer, that when I look at something, whatever I look at changes because of the interaction between my consciousness and what I'm looking at. And that change creates the healing, which is not necessarily an exchange of energy, it's just an acknowledgement. And I was just wondering how you both see this and experience it in the work that you do.
Gertie, that's a great question, and where I go with that is as I've learned along the way over many years of practicing this modality that I use and evolving this modality was under the umbrella of some very critical information from the sources, the channel sources, and my mentors, that we don't work on people until we have our energies cleared ourselves. And the truth is, as I look at humanity and the healers out there, there's only probably 20% at most of any kind of healer out there that is qualified under that umbrella of looking at things. Because if you haven't gotten there yourself, you're going to stir the pot within yourself. There's going to bring up lots of potential problems within your own field, but you certainly can infuse energies and emotions and feelings and different types of discordant energies into somebody else. And that carries karmic consequences itself and can slow down anybody that's on a so-called ascension path. But I'm in total agreement with you. Does that match with your experience and observations?
Yeah, it does. It can be a form of exactly what you said, creating karma. It can also be, in the experience, a form of manipulation. And it takes away sometimes free will. I find, I start to feel and see the difference between sympathy, empathy, and compassion. And I always try to explain it in such a way: when you're in sympathetic mode and somebody's sitting at the bottom of a well, from sympathy, you go sit with that person in the bottom of the well and commiserate together. And then there's an expansion of misery, basically. And when you're in an empathetic space and somebody sits at the bottom of the well, you will stop whatever you're doing, and you try to get the person out of that well. You throw down a ladder, you throw down food, whatever it is. So you try to change the situation. But I think when you're in compassion, you honor the person at the bottom of the well. You might hold space, or you stand guard, and you allow that person to do what he or she needs to do in that space. And even though you don't know what it's about, you understand that there's a reason. Otherwise, it wouldn't be that way. And to honor that reason and shine light on that reason by saying hello to it might actually change the awareness of that person. He or she might get inspired and able to move through whatever the situation is. So that's kind of how I feel the difference between these levels of connection or engagement with another person. And I feel like compassion really, even sometimes that feels like tough love, is more honest and more truthful, because it's closer to free will and acceptance than any other form of healing. That's my experience, but I think that's a learning curve for every healer out there.
It is, Gertie. You're so. I'm in total agreement with you. One of the things that we work, our perspective is on: one, we can't violate free will, and we got to be careful not to manipulate. We can advise, we can counsel. A lot of times in our work, as we're identifying misalignments and interference in an energy field, we're clearing that so clarity can be gained by the individual. We're not looking at a magic bean where we snap our fingers and fix everybody's problems. That's not what it's all about. It's about giving them the clarity, increasing their connection in a way that does not take away from their life's lessons, what they have to learn, and their karma and their free will. So I think we're totally on the same page with that. Would you agree, Liz?
Yeah, and I think as a sensitive individual, I think speaking for the three of us, we are all that. It is difficult to not go there. But part of being a good healer is being unattached to the outcome and holding space, like you said, and allowing the other person to get there. Our work connects the people, the client, to some very high frequencies. But if they choose to continue to tell their story to themselves, they're going to continue to attract the same thing. And I'm a big proponent of figuring things out, like doing your own work and stepping into it. We all need help, but I don't tell people what to do, because I don't like being told what to do, and I don't think it's healthy. Everyone has their own decisions to make and consequences from those decisions, but there's no right and there's no wrong. And so, yes, we have to hold space and shine that light, and then light bulbs go off and magic happens.
Exactly. Yes, that's exactly how I see it too. And it's sometimes, sometimes I always feel that one of the ways to really find a roadmap in this is to always ask, either directly, verbally, or energetically, for permission. Can I say hello, or am I allowed to stand guard, or am I allowed to be a witness to your process? And I always find that yes is yes, maybe is no, and no is no. And that there's a very clear distinction between that energy. And I might think, okay, I feel the need to help that person, but because I feel like I could help, or it could be better, it could be different. But that's my picture and my energy that is seeking and not necessarily what's right for that other person. So always, what my pathway through this is, what I've learned is to always ask for permission first. And if it's a yes, then I can say hello. And if it's a maybe or no, it's a no. And it's a very strict rule,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah, I love that, Gertie. Our processes take that all into consideration. And for example, if we're working on somebody and it would violate their free will or their karma, then nothing happens. We can even see that in the energies. If nothing moves, typically what happens, discordant energies can be cleared because that's not interfering per se, but that individual can attract more of the same right back in. But if we're looking at the energy movement, the alignments, the expansions, and that, if that person is not ready for it, doesn't want it at some level, they may have been coerced into calling us, like by their mom or somebody that says, hey, you got to call Robert or Liz, right? And well, okay, I will, but they don't, not really, their heart's not in it. We can work on them, intensely, but nothing moves because the conditions of our program are, we can't violate that free will. So I think that's a real important rule, and part of the modality of anybody tries to work on somebody or works on somebody without some form of permission, they are taking on the karma of any damage they do.
Absolutely. Yep. I totally agree. I get it too when somebody client asks me, oh, I really love working with you. I think so and so needs to talk to you as well. Can you do that, or will you? And I'm like, well, have that person call me or send me an email or a request or connect with me or whatever, and then we'll go from there. But I never do that through the recommendation of someone else. Or when somebody gets a reading for me and they say, can you look at this person for me? I'm like, I can look at that person through your relationship with that person. So I'm looking at you and not that person, because if I don't have any permission to look at somebody, I'm not going to do that, because it's an invasion of privacy, and that person never asked me to do that. So I will not do that.
And Gertie, that's the way the angels and masters work too. They can't violate. It's a universal law, cosmic law, that they can't violate somebody's free will. They can see things going on, but they can't interfere either. So it is a universal law, and anybody that is not paying attention to that stands a risk of diminishing their own abilities, their connections, and increasing their negative karma. So if healers out there need to pay attention to that very closely and try to learn that part of it, is how important that is. And I've witnessed that with people I've worked with that are claiming to be doing healing, and their karma's a mess because of things they've done outside those boundaries.
I see it too. I've seen people that had rooms like convention rooms with hundreds of people there at some point, that I've seen recently that have been reduced to energetic, hysterical, I don't know what to say, like a state of being that almost is completely disheveled and ragged and fragmented and shocking, because they don't walk their talk, and they got seduced by fame or recognition or money or whatever. And I think that ultimately the greatest lesson of humanity to learn is how to deal with power in whatever form or shape it comes, and to own it in through the heart chakra and through consciousness, and not through something outside of that. And I think that lesson shows up everywhere. And if you're not really doing that, I think ultimately you always meet yourself in that way. So yeah,
it's definitely not the path to higher consciousness. I mean, I think the term that resonates with me is the glamour of being a healer, the glamour of being a light worker, and all that. With most people have the great intentions of that, but you got to be really careful because it can be a tightrope that needs to be walked properly. And we've all learned lessons. I mean, I certainly learned my share by learning the hard way along the way. But if people can save themselves a few steps by understanding there are some universal laws that need to be followed, and don't get entranced by the glamour of it all or the group dynamics that can take you into a state of euphoria. And part of that's the group energies. One of the problems that go with that is sometimes there can be energies turned on that a person's not ready for, like too much kundalini, too much of any type of energy that gets out of balance and maybe too strong and pushing out other good qualities, and can cause a real serious problem in that person's behavior and connections going forward that they may have a difficult time recovering from if they don't know somebody that knows how to get in there and fix it.
Absolutely. Yep. I'm totally in agreement. Yeah. And I've seen that too. Yeah. And it's so great to talk to like-minded spirits like you two. And I'm so honored that we met each other, we found each other, we got connected, and it's a blessing. And sometimes it's a lonely place to be, but when you actually are with others, it's glorious. That's the real kind of glory that you can find your kindred spirits. So.
Well, yeah, like the three of us know, there's a lot of distance between us and miles, but there's no distance with the connection, and it's right there, time and space, and tune in. Geertje, question: are you open to new clients? Is that something you do? Do you take on new clients now?
Yes, I am definitely. My practice is open. Yes, my name is Geertje Zamlich, and people can find me online. My website is www.spiritual-communication.com, and you can book sessions online directly, or you can email me or call me and make an appointment that way. Yes, I'm open to always meet new people and be inspired. So I would be honored.
Yeah, and I recommend people reach out and connect with you, because I know that after our phone calls, I mean, we have some great calls, and afterwards I'm just feeling so light, and so validated that, there's somebody that speaks the same language of this work.
Yeah, and working with different intuitives over the years, I want to give a shout out to Geertje, because her ability to articulate what she's seeing and translate it in a way that is comprehensible and inspiring and compassionate and loving, totally worth it. And you will gain some real insight about yourself in a way that feels good. And that's what we need.
You two are so kind. I appreciate that. Thank you so much for that feedback. I really appreciate that. And I would say it takes one to know one.
Oh.
Yeah, we appreciate that, and we appreciate the feedback. And also, when we work together with a common bond we have, we know that we can trust each other, not just even to share things that, hey, you're doing a great job, but if there was something out there that said, I don't know, to know that we can say, hey, I think there was something wrong with what you just said, or I know I can count on you and Liz to both get me back in line if I step out of bounds a little bit.
That's my job.
And so that's always really important too, is to have that trust in somebody that can call it like it is. So I appreciate the candidness of our conversations, and your energies just speak for themselves, and I love that part too.
Thank you so much, and I love you both. I'm honored, and it's true, having somebody or more people, but at least somebody who can actually see you and say hello to you in the shadow and in the light, but with and hello that is actually compassionate, not judgmental, discerning, but not judgmental, is an incredibly powerful experience. And my work, it's communication from the soul. It's spiritual communication. It's really, how should I say, I try to tune in, find the frequency or the language of the person I'm speaking to, and basically translate back to them what they say to me on an energy level. And I started out as an interpreter, and I speak several languages. So communication and languages have always been my passion, but it has evolved to not just a verbal language, but also an energetic language. And it's to find the right word to say, to really touch upon a concept or a picture or a feeling or a awareness that somebody has, and name it, to find a language to touch upon it and to name it sometimes is the greatest healing somebody can experience, because all of a sudden what they always knew or sort of felt becomes real because they have been witnessed. And that can be one of the most powerful experiences someone can have, is from what I have experienced and what I see happening in other people. And I'm blessed and honored to be able to do that.
Yeah, I love that. And, one of the challenges as we're interacting with people, from beginners in energy work to those that have much experience, the challenge sometimes is those that have a lot of experience around various forms of energy work sometimes have to go through a bit of a shock and a paradigm shift to unlearn some of the things they may have learned. I think we all have probably been through that, but to have the language, the wisdom of knowing what to say at the right time to an individual, to any of us as we're talking to each other, is a real mastery of being able to work with folks. And I know that as I'm talking to individuals, I like to make sure they know that I'm not here to fix all their problems, and energy work doesn't fix all problems. It's to help get them in the right direction, get them some clarity, help with their connection, and encourage them to move forward and
Exactly.
to hang in there. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's not a Band-Aid. It's not a potion. It's none of that. It's just it's just bearing witness and giving people energy, the inspiration, not giving energy, but inspire people to be encouraged and inspired to move forward. And to, oftentimes I feel people get stuck because they're hard on themselves, and they're withheld from themselves because they are in judgment of themselves. And as soon as that hello happens and the judgment clears, the energy flows. It's like taking a boulder out of a river, that the water has to flow around it. And once that boulder is removed, there's freedom in that flow of water. And that's kind of like energy, and it's like love and emotions and all of it that flows. When it flows freely, it's always a good state of being.
Well said.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And like we have come to recognize that's the divine ones being allowed in. It's their energies, their love, their assistance that's being allowed in and being invited in. And it's that feeling of that energy through the connection, through the voice, through the any kind of removing of blockages and that, but it opens up and makes people start feeling that there is love, there is hope, there is opportunities moving forward to overcome whatever is going on, and to understand it more as to the spiritual aspect of it.
Well, one of the things that I always come back to is to not deny in yourself or in others the intelligence of what it took to get here, even if it appeared to be traumatic. The experience might be in the physical and emotional body not positive, but on the soul level, there's no difference between positive and negative, because mathematically the value of +3 and -3 is still 3. So the experience is important, and the soul desires that because the soul wants to know itself and advance itself and develop itself and experience itself. Um, and even if you're, with the idea that you chose your parents, and you might think, well, I must have had a blackout when I did that because I had a terrible childhood. And it's easy to feel that way or to think that way. And I didn't have the greatest childhood myself, but there is, what I've come to find is like, yeah, but there is a reason, even if I cannot articulate it, that I chose my parents, and I believe that there's an intelligence in trauma. There is an intelligence because we're all have survived it, and our previous generations have survived a lot of trauma. We've all been able to choose whatever was the best option at any given time. In hindsight, it might be different, but at every given time, we're able to choose the best option. And that's an intelligence. And I think if you accept that and you um, take it into the equation of the cycle of birth and death, and also of the beginning of your life and why you're here, I think that is the anthema to that self-judgment and negative uh, self self um, feeling about yourself, and then you actually create space that invites some curiosity, and when you have that, you can actually look at something from a slightly different perspective, and then you start moving, you get unstuck. And that's
Yes,
kind of what I love in readings and communication, is kind of really create that level of awareness in somebody
absolutely.
in their relationship with themselves. Yeah.
When I discovered this idea that I'd chosen, my birth time and my parents and all that, it changed. I changed from feeling maybe resentment and stuck to a co-creator, this goddess energy. And
Exactly.
I no
Yeah.
longer held, woe is me, life is unfair. It's like, I designed this, so I'm going to rock it. I'm going to do whatever I can to own it and make it what it is. And I've lived a life this lifetime where, like Robert, I've learned things the hard way and I've gone down some paths, and I no longer hold shame for the things I've done. I love every step I've ever taken because it's led me to this moment. And it is a beautiful place to arrive here where I am, to where I am so much less judgmental of self than I ever have been. And that's freeing when we can change the voice in our mind to be a cheerleader on our team. Life is so much better every moment. And I want other
Absolutely.
people to
Yeah.
experience that, because that's what it's all about, loving ourselves.
And that's also the source of compassion to others. And even if, hardship, yeah, you can be ashamed about it if you have a lot of perfect pictures, what I call them, about how things should be. And that's not easy not to have. But, when you fall on hard times and you get through it, not only do you get through it, but you gain so
Mm.
much more compassion for others, and you will deepen your connection with others and yourself as a result of that. And it's only a richness. It's only a richness when that happens.
Yeah, I love that. I'm sitting here kind of laughing at myself, thinking that, my thoughts now toward my parents is I kind of like respect them and honor them, and kind of feel bad that they took on the challenge of dealing with me as a child. That couldn't have been easy, right? It's like, whoa, that took a lot of courage just
Oh
to
yeah,
do
but
that. They
Robert, it
made it
goes
through
both
it. So,
ways, huh?
learning the lessons along the way. So, anybody that's been a parent or that out there knows the challenges nowadays of raising children is something I can't even imagine the challenges compared to the way it was 20, 40, 100 years ago.
Yeah,
It's tough
yeah.
times now, different situations and that, but you still have to go in and do the best you can, and not hold grudges for self or those around you, and realize that, hey, work through it and forgive and love and do the best you can.
Do the best you can, and absolutely well said. And yeah, we can always see it one way, like my parents were this and that way, but I have to be honestly, I can honestly say I wasn't the easiest child to my parents. I was very,
Yeah.
very independent and forceful, and I said it like it was, and that was not always what they wanted to hear, and I acted on it as well. And I was out of the house by 15 and telling my mother I was better able to take care of myself than she could take care of me. And I was gone. And so not easy. And it's both ways. I'm sure I wasn't easy for her, and she was not easy for me. Um, but we choose each other. It's an equal contract. They
Yes.
have a contract with us as parents, and we have a contract with them. It's an equal relationship, and owning that actually creates forgiveness, space, affinity, and insight in yourself and in your family and your surroundings, and that's always a good thing.
Geertje, we appreciate your call so much. We got to do this again. This is a wonderful chat,
I would love
and
that.
hopefully our audience has enjoyed it and got some insights, and we'll reach out to you and reach out to Liz and reach out to me too if they feel the nudge. But it's been a great conversation. Sending you lots of love and appreciate the connection, and thank you for calling in and joining us today.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. I am delighted that I was part of the show. And like I said, I've listened to all of them. You guys are really great people. And I wish you the best with continuation of the show. And yes, I would be honored to talk to you again. And if there's anybody out there that has questions for me, they can contact me. And thank you. It was lovely to talk to you today.
Well, thank you. And we'll be in touch here. Probably later this week via text or whatever. We'll be in touch. Take care.
Love you.
Thank
Bye.
You too. Bye-bye. Bye.
That was fun.
That was fun.
And
That was a lot of fun.
we appreciate that. And, those are kind of the, as we get into the world of metaphysics and energies and spirituality, sometimes it can be a little bit lonely as we, our connections change as we evolve into just a newer perspective and other people we get to meet. And it's those kind of connections that are inspiring, enjoyable, reinforcing. And so, I'm grateful for it.
Me too, man. Well said.
So Liz, I think with that, let's close this out and say thank you to everybody for listening in. You know how to get a hold of us. Look at our websites at lizwithwings.com and sedforyou.com. You can set up a complimentary appointment, and we'd love to talk to you and answer your questions. So have a great week out there. Lots of love to everybody that's listening in.
Love you guys.